The formula they've created is my partner doesn't want sex, therefore they don't love me anymore, or they're not attracted to me anymore, even though they still love me, or they don't desire me anymore. They don't want me, right? So we equate it down to like love or attraction. And this can be especially true if we are a woman who's the higher libido partner. And maybe if our body has changed a lot since kids, we may have this feeling that we're not attractive to our partner anymore. And so they don't want to connect with us in that way anymore. And while I will say that it is, of course, not 100% never this situation or these situations, most of the time when I'm talking to people, it is not a love issue and it is not an attraction issue. It is other things. Welcome to the Sex After Kids podcast, a place for parents to come and learn together about the sometimes bumpy road back into the saddle of their sex life after adoption, childbirth, or joining a blended family. I am your host, Sophia Ashley, certified sex educator and sex coach, mother and stepmother, and your totally TMI guide to becoming BFFs with your body and initiating easy, connected, and confident, naked, sexy fun times. Here we are, one part science of sex, one part mindfulness magic, and one part straight up real talk to help you find the spark in your relationship and yourself after kids. I am so glad you are here. Welcome back to the Sex After Kids podcast, my friends. I am so happy to see you here, and I love seeing all your little downloads every week. It makes my heart happy. Please share the love. Send this with a friend who's got kids. Even if you have no idea what's happening in their sex life, I guarantee they could benefit from at least one of these episodes. This week, we're going to be talking about the real reasons that our partners are avoiding sex and why it's typically not what we think. So, when I'm talking to higher libido partners, typically when I'm talking to dads, the formula they've created is my partner doesn't want sex, therefore they don't love me anymore, or they're not attracted to me anymore, even though they still love me, or they don't desire me anymore. They don't want me, right? So we equate it down to like love or attraction. And this can be especially true if we are a woman who's the higher libido partner. And maybe if our body has changed a lot since kids, we may have this feeling that we're not attractive to our partner anymore. And so they don't want to connect with us in that way anymore. And while I will say that it is, of course, not 100% never this situation or these situations, most of the time when I'm talking to people, it is not a love issue and it is not an attraction issue. It is other things. So I will do some podcast episodes about the love piece and the attraction piece. And we won't talk too much about it today, but I do want to acknowledge that especially if your lower libido partner is heavily reliant on pornography, then that is a whole other ball game. Again, which may or may not have to do with their love or attraction for you, right? Porn is an outlet for escaping our emotions and our dissatisfaction with our life. And it might be a coping mechanism that has nothing to do with how much your partner loves you and how attracted to you they are, right? So multiple layers going on here. So if it's not love that's lacking and it's not attraction that's lacking, then what is it? Well, your certified sex coach and mama who's been there is going to break down a couple of different options for you to consider and some thoughts on what you can maybe do differently to explore that. Okay. So, the first one that I want to talk about is the orgasm gap. So, the sad truth is that fully 75% of women in heterosexual relationships are not orgasming very frequently, or are just quite simply not satisfied with their sex life and likely not saying anything about it. Now, that is not your fault. Okay, it's not their fault and it's not your fault. It is shitty sex ed's fault. But the issue here is not love. The issue here is that your lovemaking together between the two of you is kind of mediocre. And maybe it was decent before kids, but you haven't found your way around the new anatomy and the new emotions and the new things. And so your lovemaking skills need a little bit of an upgrade. And there might need to be an honest conversation about how things are, or we just skip past that part and we go, you know what? Regardless of how good or bad things are, we're just investing in upping our skills. The bottom line is that it's not sex that begets more sex. It's good sex that begets more good sex. So one of the reasons that your partner might be avoiding sex with you is that it's just not that satisfying. Now, that could be a you issue. You don't know your way around their body. That could be a them issue. There's a lot of trauma, maybe new birth trauma, maybe new body image issues that are preventing them from orgasming. And you work on that and you improve that together. And I'm trying to think of like a tip I can offer. I mean, the best thing there is like, follow me. This is what I teach in the Naked Fun Comeback, obviously. But even just like cracking a book on sex, not even necessarily specifically sex after kids. If your partner's experiencing a lot of trauma, cracking a book about that, here's what I'll do. I will list some resources in the show notes if there's books that you want to start reading, to start to understand where you can uplevel your skills to deal with your partner's new discomfort in sex if it's a new thing, or your own lack of ability to find the magic spots that make the bells sing. So that is number one. Okay. Your partner might be avoiding sex if the quality of your sex is not enough for them to crave more of it. It's a harsh truth to admit to, but I do want you to know that it's only your fault if you continue to persist with the same level of skills that you have without exploring how you can upskill. And you were getting by on mediocre sex skills as it was because most of the people I have talked to have never actually cracked a book about sex ever, and they were never given any kind of map to people's pleasure. And on top of that, as a society, we still know diddly squat about women's pleasure. We didn't map the clitoris, which is like the organ designed for pleasure, until the 1980s. Okay, the map of the clitoris is as old as I am, 40. That is not very old. So don't beat yourself up. Don't get into a shame spiral. Grab a book, follow me, buckle up, book a call. Let's fix it. It's fixable. All right. Number 2, why is your partner avoiding sex? Your partner might be avoiding sex if you're putting a lot of a focus on this idea that desire needs to come before sex. And you might be putting a lot of pressure on that, or your partner might be putting a lot of pressure on that. Your partner may be putting themselves in a false duality or dichotomy or whatever, where they feel like either they're hot and horny ready for sex, or they're forcing them. So if we're not giving them things to respond to, if we're not giving them invitations, if we're not giving them flirt and touch and connection, then we're not sort of like turning up the dial on their flame slowly but surely. There's also ways that libido works, and I'm going to do a more in-depth episode about this, but it's important to know that some people, we all have a gas pedal, so a turn on pedal, and a brake pedal, turn off pedal. Some of us have a really sensitive gas pedal, so it takes nothing to turn us on. And some of us are real slow burn. It takes a lot of small pieces of invitation over time to finally build to wanting. Some of us also have a sensitive brake pedal, which means absolutely anything can turn us off. And some of us have a dull brake pedal where it's like no matter what inappropriate situation is happening that says, no, not the time, our libido can't turn off. So knowing how your partner's unique libido works and what specifically turns them on or off now in this era of your relationship is a big part of the equation. So the false thinking here is that my partner doesn't want me, so they don't love me. And the real thinking or the real formula here is my partner doesn't want me because they and I have not figured out how to plan a party that their libido wants to come to now. So again, more learning about libido, more learning about your partner's specific body and how it works now so that you can get back into the driver's seat to connect with each other. The other piece that I want to talk about here, and it kind of relates to that last one, is that if your partner's avoiding sex with you, it's not because they don't love you, it's because their nervous system is fried and maxed, and there's literally just no room for them to take in more stimulation, more input. Okay. So, this is where some of what I was talking about at the top, when emotional labor is, and when childcare and chores are not equitably distributed in our relationship, if one person feels like they're taking on more of the load than the other, when one person's really in the caregiving mode for their partner, their brain is just drowning in to-dos and drowning in doing stuff for other people all the time, right? So they're thinking about what the kids need, what their partner needs, what their boss needs, what their this needs, what their that needs, and their needs come last. That's exhausting. And by default, what happens, even if they don't want it to, is sex just becomes like another thing they have to do for someone else. It also becomes a situation where if you think of like their nervous system capacity as like a cup, if that cup is full, yet another hug, yet another back massage, yet another eye gaze, yet another even like loving words about how sexy I am is just like more input for my eyes, ears, mouth, nose, whatever, skin to take in. And so that can turn into a default red light where my body just goes, fuck no. And I might actually be open to sex, but there's my cup is full. And so what we need to do is start acknowledging, start noticing, start attuning to where our partner's nervous system state is. And the more we can take off their plate without unequitably overloading our own, because that's a habit people can get into, is like taking on more than their fair share to alleviate for their partner in order to get laid. Just like a whole other episode we could do, because you can't abandon your needs either, right? But are you really taking on your fair share? Big question. And in the moment, can we take nervous system overwhelm, maxed outness, not as a red light, but as a yellow light, as an invitation to slow down and lead our partner into emptying that cup? Because when my cup's full, it's a skill for me to learn to like pause, notice the cup's full, and go, okay, I need to like dump a few things out and make a little room for myself. And so the power that my partner has is to co-regulate with me and to show up and be the person to go, hey, I see your cup's full. Let's tip you over and empty some out, and then see if there's room for the connection that I'm seeking. Okay. That is how we show up out of victim mode, whining and complaining that our partner is never available to us, whether it's to ourselves silently or out loud. And this is where we find the, what's it called? The like area of control that we have. I don't like the word control, but I just want you to think of it as like, it can feel quite powerless when your partner says no all the time. As the higher libido partner, you are less in charge of the situation because you're respecting what your partner's limits are. And I'm not saying we're here to manipulate our partner's limits. Some days are going to be the cup is full and I cannot empty it, or I do not want to empty it and it is a no. And that's a hard line we're going to respect. And we can show up and find the control that we can have in the situation is to control ourselves, right? We cannot control our partners. We can control ourselves. And so instead of initiating, getting rejected, and then whining like a hurt puppy, we can attune to our partner's nervous system state, notice where they're at, take it as a read that maybe now's not the right moment. A lot of people initiate just at the wrong moment. Or proceed first without the pressure or the goal or the motivation of getting laid, right? I'm not manipulating my partner to get laid. I am serving them. I am supporting them to make room in that cup so that we can then see what they're open to saying yes to. So that might look like my husband walking into the kitchen after a night shift, and I'm in the middle of packing lunches and cleaning the kitchen. And he has no idea what my evening's been like unless I've texted him, right? So in scenario one, he might walk up behind me, start hugging me, start groping me, being quite amorous with me. And if he hasn't read the room and he hasn't noticed where I'm at, I might immediately be like, what the fuck do you want from me? And get off me, right? And he's trying to connect. He's trying to build a bridge for me, but he didn't notice where I was at first. If instead we rewind, he walks in, takes a few minutes to like come over to me, ask me if I want a hug, make eye contact with me and say, hi, how was your night? Just give me 2 minutes to give him a litmus read on like whether it was a hard night or an easy night, right? And then he might say like, I missed you during my shift. I'd love to get a little snuggly. What are you open to right now? And if my answers were I had a terrible night, the kids were all over me, the battle was insane for bedtime, then he might say, what if I run you a bath? I'll finish lunches here and we'll see what you're open to after that. Or he could just, if I say, actually, it was a really good night and I'm here just chilling, I'm finished up with lunches, I'm feeling really good, then he might say, hey, are you open to XYZ? So it's just taking a few extra minutes, not swooping in from his world into my world, but kind of knocking at the door at my world first to go, hey, how is it in there? Is there room for me? Can I make room for me? And this simple act gives you way more of a sense of power and control over what's happening, but it also allows you to just show up in leadership, right? Where you're not being the whiny victim, they're not being the whiny victim, and you don't let them be the whiny victim. Because if they say they're overwhelmed, then you offer, what do you need right now to be not overwhelmed, right? Not what do you need to be willing to fuck me? What do you need to be not overwhelmed right now? And I've talked about it ad nauseum, certainly in the trainings for Naked Fun Comeback, but on this podcast, what do you need right now to feel present, relaxed, and connected to me? And if we find that, we are way more likely to find the next piece. Okay, I think that's it for today, my friends. So what do I want you to take from this? I want you to remember that the equation is not my partner's not fucking me, therefore they don't love me and they're not attracted to me. Occasionally that's true, but rarely, okay? More often than not, what's happening is the sex you're having is mediocre, which means your partner's not craving coming back to it. We can fix that with education and coaching. What else might be happening? We're not in an understanding of their libido and how it works right now. So we're trying the wrong strategies to get them in the mood. And they might be trying the wrong strategies for themselves to get them in the mood. What can we do? We can fix that. We can learn. We can get coached. And the last piece is that more often than not, it's actually about overwhelm and your partner just not having any more space for stimulation and input. And connection with you is stimulation and input. And it's also another request. So we need to take some requests off of their to-do list if we can. And we need to offer nervous system co-regulation so that we can find present, relaxed connection with them. And that is what opens the doorway to the lovely naked fun connection time. All right. Last note before I leave you here today, we are heading into summer, right? It's a time of change. It's a time of shifting rhythms. And I know that for some of you, this is going to mean less space and less time for intimacy with vacations and upended routines. And for some of you, it actually might mean more room for creating that connection. What I want you to know is that no matter what your summer looks like, there is always room to build the foundations for a better sex life, because that foundation is relaxed, present connection with each other. Okay. None of that has to be naked. All of that can be done in front of your children. Even if they're all around all the time, you're still going to feel more connection, more love, more flirt. more of a desire to be around one another, which is going to lead to you taking more opportunities and leveraging more opportunities to get naked and have fun. So, if you find yourself in a situation where right now you are avoiding touch or playfully flirting because you're kind of scared of the pressure that's going to create, or you're scared of the rejection that you're going to experience, then I really want you to consider this invitation. I'm opening a few spots for spark sessions this week and next week, and these are free, no pressure sessions where we get a chance to talk together about the disconnect that's happening for you right now and how we can bring back playful, pressure free fun into your relationship over the next 3 months, over the summer. I want to explore with you where you're stuck and help you to imagine a summer filled with flirting and fun, even amidst the chaos of kids. Spots are limited, so make sure that you grab the link in the show notes to book a spot now. And remember to check the show notes for some reading and blog recommends where you can start to do some of the learning that you need to tackle the mindset shifts that we have talked about in this episode. As usual, I always love to hear from you. Please comment, send me an email, or hit me up in the DMs on IG. Let me know what you thought about this episode, whether you still have questions that you want me to answer. I am here for it, and I will catch you next week. This is the part where we do the end bit, right? My friends, let's take a mindfulness minute here. Take a deep breath in. Open that mouth and let out a big, deep, full body sigh. Voila. Your nervous system thanks you. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope that your head and your heart have something new to consider, something new to talk about, and something new to try. No husbands were harmed in the making of this podcast, and a big thank you to my husband for his help and original music composition. Love you, babe. This podcast was recorded on the traditional territories of the Kwanlin First Nation and Tonquachan Council in Whitehorse, Yukon. We acknowledge and are grateful to the original stewards of this land where we get to play, live, and raise our children. You can catch me on the Instagram at the Happy V Project for tips, tools, and anecdotes. And you can also join the weekly-ish newsletter for dispatches from my bedroom and my brain. Also, head to thehappyvaginaproject.com to learn more about how you can work with me. Catch you next time.